This podcast is sponsored by Terraform Development is an engineering and architectural design studio company located in Flagstaff, Arizona. Co-owner and founder Eddie Kalnimtua supports the Hopi way of life and supports the next generation, including hiring Hopi professionals, individuals like Dr. Brianne Laban from the village of Tewa. Contact Terraform at 928-864-5022 extension 1, or you can email them at info@terra4orm.com or visit their website at www.terra4orm.com to learn more about Terraform Development. They can design your next home, manage your next construction project, or fly their latest drone equipment to get aerial views of your project.
Also sponsored by...
Do you want to support local businesses? Well, here's a word from our first sponsor, Strong Ones. Strong Ones is dedicated to exposing cultural traditions of running that exist within many cultures and tribes worldwide through running apparel. Strong Ones is an individually owned business supporting cultural running traditions and supporting local organizations within the Hopi Reservation. They can be found at strongones.myshopify.com. Again, that's strongones.myshopify.com. They are also on Facebook at StrongOnes15.
All right, good afternoon, leers and R's and everything in between. I'm your host, Carl, and this is my friend J-Man, and welcome to Carl and J-Man Save the World podcast.
What about the R's?
Oh, yeah, I forgot the R's.
And the A'ers. I know we got some of those listening to our podcast, too.
Yeah, the A'ers and R's and everything in between.
This is an inclusive podcast. We welcome everybody here.
Yeah, that's true.
So how's it going?
Well, it's going really great. I enjoy life. I enjoy making podcasts, and I thank everybody for listening.
I think So and Gua would appreciate it if you also enjoyed working too. I know that's not up there on your highest of priority list.
I work hard only on Tuesdays, Mondays and Tuesdays.
There's a YouTube video on the Carl and J-Man Save the World podcast YouTube channel that is an accurate description of Carl's work ethic. If you haven't seen it already,
hey, that was because
check out our YouTube channel.
Because you were boring me sometimes, so. So we have T-shirts. We have T-shirts for sale. T-shirts and stickers for sale.
T-shirts are on sale at. We've been. We have a sponsor. Our sponsor, Strong Ones, has been generous enough.
Yeah. To
put us up in their store. So if you are interested in our T-shirts and our stickers, we're at their online store, which is at strongones.myshopify.com. And so, if you got some extra bingo winnings or some extra Facebook, I don't know what those gambling games are now that are real popular amongst our people, but if you win any of those contests, visit our store and then hook us up.
Oh, yeah. And we also have stickers for sale. So buy them stickers. God damn it.
No comment.
So today's topic, we're going to be talking about movies.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well, before we talk about movies, I think that, the podcast is doing really well.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like that's kind of a message that we keep delivering. But, it's interesting because even since season 2 started, our Facebook activity has increased, our Instagram activity has increased, our listenership has increased. I know that Carl is even more popular. One thing that I didn't tell you, but one of my nephew, his kids, his daughters, they have a dog, and it had puppies.
Uh-huh.
And they named one of the puppies Carl.
Dang. So I'm a dog? Are you telling me I'm a dog?
Well, you're an Esau, so. And one of the other things too is that I learned that my parents listen to our podcast.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And so when we first started podcasting, I didn't really tell any of my family members that, hey, I have this podcast. Come give us a listen, because you get embarrassed that, some of the things that you shared might not want, certain people to know certain things about your experiences or your lifestyles.
I'm very sorry, Mr. and Mrs. Sita. So, just whatever I say out there, don't be offended. So
everyone knows you're harmless.
I'm like that teddy bear that every guy wants to just give his wife. It's pretty much it. So
yes, you are a teddy bear, harmless.
Well, movies, right? Movies. So we all love movies. We all love the blockbusters and the indie movies, the horror, the comedy movies. But one thing for sure is that there are minimal movies about Native Americans. Am I right?
I think so.
Yeah.
And so today, I think that, our topic almost in a way is kind of a part two of our last episode, because, this is something that's a little bit more on the media side. Talking about, on the entertainment side, because we talked about music the last time, the types of music that we like and kind of how it influenced us. But, today we kind of wanted to talk about the movies. What are some popular movies on the reservation? What are some movies that we enjoyed as kids? What are some movies that have to do with Native cultures, with Hopi cultures, if there are any.
There are there are quite some few movies for Hopi culture.
Yeah, and so none of that that amateur stuff that you be trying to create yourself.
There are some probably amateur movies that I've created in the past, so no pun intended.
And so I guess with that, what were some of your favorite movies growing up as a kid?
See, we had cable. We had cable when we were growing up, and I used to love watching like Ladmo and Bozo the Clown and Saturday morning cartoons. But when it came to like movies, Gua loved the Western movies. He was always intrigued by the Western side of movies.
John Wayne's teeth
and everything in between. And that's all we watched. And that was my influence, is when Kwa wanted to watch a movie, it was always the black and white. For some reason, it was always black and white. I don't think I've ever seen a colored film for quite some time, because Kwa loved to watch the cowboys and Indians. And growing up, I didn't want to be the Indian. I wanted to be the cowboy, chasing the Indians around. And that was my influence there for movies.
You wanted the 6-shooter. You didn't want the bows and arrows.
I already got the bows and arrows. I wanted the 6-shooter. That's why.
You probably didn't want to run around outside with no shirt on. That's why.
And growing up a little bit more, we were influenced by Disney movies. The early 90s Disney movies were like Little Mermaid, and you had Emperor's New Groove or whatever. And those were some of the movies that influenced me into growing up to say, hey, I wanted to be a cartoonist or like draw cartoons in a way. And so those were the types of movies. I never... during my childhood, I never really watched like horror movies or comedy movies. And back then, like renting VHS was kind of a hassle, because of course that when we lived in Tuba, there was that, what was that movie store called? The Arizona or AZ Hollywood.
Yes.
Yeah. The AZ Hollywood. And it was like a little strip mall that burned down a long time ago. Mm-hmm. And I remember going in there to go. We would rent movies, and it would always be the adults that would just rent the movies, and they would never rent anything for us. So whatever they picked out, we had to watch.
I really enjoy your stories. Very articulate.
Thank you.
I can tell at the level of what your IQ is by how you express yourself.
Hey, I'm smart.
I guess, we were fortunate enough when I was growing up, we had 2 TVs in the house.
Uh-huh.
And so, I'm not really too sure as to, for most reservation homes, like maybe some of them only had 1 TV in the house. And so you were kind of restricted to watching whatever movies that other people in the house wanted to watch, like you're saying that you were stuck watching your Guas movies and etc. But we had two TVs, and so I was, for the most part, I was able to watch a lot of what I wanted to watch. And I think as a kid, a lot of the stuff that I liked, I didn't realize it until like now looking back at it. But some of my favorite movies were like sci-fi movies. I think that Ghostbusters is probably like one of my all-time favorite movies. Terminator is another one. Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
And then like when the Lord of the Rings movies came out, those were another thing too that were real popular for me. But one of the things about movies that kind of always takes me back to my childhood is like when we were down at our Soul's house. Down at the village, down at the lower village, there's no electricity.
Yeah.
There's no electricity on the side of the village where my Soul's house was, so they had a solar panel. And because the solar panel is just like a rechargeable battery.
Yeah.
That when you use X amount of energy, then you have to kind of shut everything off so that it can charge back up. So that was kind of a way that it restricted us when we were down there. We could only watch like one movie a day.
Okay.
Because then you couldn't watch movies all day long. Otherwise, you'd drain the power from the solar. And so my soul and Quad, they used to have all kinds of movies. They used to have the VHS tapes, and they had a lot of old movies. They had movies like the cartoon, like a lot of the Disney movies.
Yeah.
Like Robin Hood was one. They had the Jungle Book. I think they had that live action Jungle Book version where it's actually like the actor, the kid, and then the animals, like the real animals. It wasn't the animated stuff. And so, that's kind of how I guess we kind of broadened our horizons in terms of different types of movies being down there, asking Soul, what, can we watch a movie? And for the most part, they'd oblige. And so we could throw a tape in and then be able to watch something as kids down there. But that's kind of one of the most memorable things is watching movies with your relatives, your cousins, for me, it was mostly my cousins because my sisters were much older than I am. So, we didn't really watch a whole lot of movies together. But those are some of the movies that we liked. What do you think some popular reservation movies are? like what are some movies that based on growing up on the reservation that everybody's seen or that everybody encourages you to watch?
Well, first off, I think it's Smoke Signals. Smoke Signals is probably like the number one movie that everybody has in their collection.
What's so special about Smoke Signals?
It had Victor and had the fry bread and, it had everything that a Native American can relate to. So, and I think every household has that movie. I mean, I probably have 2 copies of it somewhere.
Do you know it by heart?
I think every Native knows it by heart. So I think every meme is built around, Smoke Signals, a Native American meme.
So in preparation for this episode, I did go to Instagram again, and I did ask our followers what are some popular reservation movies that all reservation people love. These are some of the answers that were given. Smoke Signals, I think, was a big popular one. Love and Basketball.
Love and Basketball.
Mm-hmm. Have you seen that movie?
No, I don't believe so.
Dance Me Outside was another one.
Dance Me Outside.
Thunderheart.
Yep.
Livin' La Vida Loca.
Yep.
Apocalypto.
Yep.
And these 2 really made me laugh. Urban Cowboy and Pure Country.
Urban Cowboy. Isn't Urban Cowboy a Bahana movie though?
Yeah.
Then it's a popular Native American movie.
Well, I mean, I guess, in terms of the question, like it's not necessarily just movies that are about Native folks, but movies that all Native people like.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
And I think that a lot of those themes for some of those movies that are kind of very popular amongst all of our people are like that. Like Urban Cowboy is a popular one.
Yeah.
Because like in the last episode, we talked about how popular country music is. And I think what's popular about that movie is how the folks carry themselves, right? They're cowboys.
Yeah.
They're cowboys, or at least an urban cowboy, they're city cowboys, but still carry a lot of that, those characteristics behind it. And so, like a lot of us out there on the reservations, we're trying to be cowboys, just like you were when you were a little kid. You wanted to be the cowboy, you want to be the Indian. And so I think that's kind of where some of those movies kind of share that influences. I know that some other movies that I was thinking about too, in terms of like reservation movies that were really popular amongst my peers, were movies like Friday. You remember the movie
Yeah,
Friday?
movie Friday. There are 3 movie adaptations of Friday. Yep.
And so I like that. Like, I think that because of the influence of the hip hop culture, the weed culture, I think was another reason that made that movie very popular. And there are many other popular movies that kind of fall outside of that American Indian, Native American genre in terms of movies that are very popular on the reservation, like Love and Basketball, for example.
Yeah,
in our
yeah.
sports episode, we talked about how popular basketball is in Tuba, especially in Tuba, and out here too in Hopi. It's a very popular sport, and a very popular sport in a lot of other reservations, pretty much everywhere.
Yeah.
And so you can see, you know, where the correlation of the themes of that movie and how it makes it popular for Native folks.
Yeah, and you know when you have that when we were in grade school, movies back then were in the 90s, but I was more of a sheltered kid, so I watched just mainly like G-rated movies. I know, right? Yeah. And it's because Solo didn't want me to be exposed to all of the killing and murders and sex and drugs and stuff. So I basically was a sheltered, Disney child.
And little does Solo know of what you watch in your room at midnight at night.
Yeah, still
at the age you're at right now.
Yeah, probably Disney Channel again too. So
this paid sponsorship was paid for by Justin Villarreal. Nurturing Indigenous Intelligence is a grassroots organization whose mission is to assist our Indigenous students in their pursuit of education. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up with upcoming distributions. But I guess going back to like the films that are within that realm of American Indian, Native American genre. Actually, when I was in college, I did take a class. I can't remember the exact name of it, what it was called, but it had to do with Native Americans and their portrayals within the movies. And it was a really cool college class because then I got to watch movies. Watching movies was my homework.
Really?
And so that's kind of how I got to watch like a lot of some of these movies, and like Smoke Signals, for example. I think that is really it has a real comedic theme to it, and I think that really only if you grew up on the reservation that you really understand some of those themes.
Yeah.
Because especially in that movie, I think one thing that kind of really made me laugh, and it kind of applies to us here on Hopi too. It's for an example is that you remember when Victor and Thomas were on the bus.
Yeah.
And then they get kind of kicked out of their seats by those Bahana guys. And then Thomas tells him, well, I guess your warrior look doesn't, work every time. But it's funny because prior to that, Victor was trying to encourage Thomas to use his warrior face.
Yeah.
But then he's like, we're not a warrior tribe. We're fishermen. And so the same could be said for Hopis. We're not a warrior tribe. We're corn farmers.
We're farmers.
And so it's like, you want to look like you came back from harvesting corn from the field. This isn't dances with corn, But I guess which is really true for our villages, that it is dances with corn.
Yeah, true. And when I was growing up in grade school, there was always that popular what was that one movie called too? Let's see. What was that one movie called? Last of the Mohicans.
Oh yes,
Last of the Mohicans came out back in 1992, and it was one of the the girls back in the heyday used to love that one guy, not the Daniel Day-Lewis, but his brother. Remember that guy? They played his
younger brother.
Yeah. Remember he had that good stoic Native American look?
Yeah, that's right.
And girls fell in love with that look there. And man, it's like, how am I going to get a girl like that if a guy looks like that? I think that's the reason why I started growing my hair out a little bit more, because I wanted to look like that guy in Last of the Mohicans. Because he was getting the looks, even though he didn't even know that he was getting the looks from all the girls.
He was getting the ladies.
And I was like, I gotta get the ladies with this thing here. I gotta be the last of the Mohican here.
So I guess within this genre of native movies about native people, what are some of your favorite movies?
My favorite movies. Let's see. I like indie movies. So I like The Troll Hunter.
Okay.
I don't know if you know about The Troll Hunter. It's like a mockumentary, sort of based around like the idea of finding trolls, but not like that troll movie. You know, the Pixar troll movie, but like real life trolls. So they go hunt these like 20, 30-foot trolls. And that's one of my favorite movies. There's all these other indie movies that you probably don't even watch, but I like horror movies. I enjoy horror movies like Winchester or like The Nun.
These are movies about natives?
No, these are like just movies in general. I don't watch movies about Native Americans anymore.
Well, I guess that you can take that line from Smoke Signals again. The only thing pathetic about natives watching movies is natives watching movies about natives. Was that the line?
Yeah, something like that.
I think that some of the movies that I really liked. Well, I really did like Smoke Signals. I thought that was a really good movie.
Yeah.
And then the other movie that I really liked too was Thunderheart.
Thunderheart.
Have you seen that movie?
I think
Thunderheart?
every family has Thunderheart as well too, and they're with Graham Greene.
With Graham Greene and
Greene. What was his name too? Graham Greene and
Val Kilmer. And but you know what? It's kind of funny because then I guess there are a lot of native movies that I guess are classified as indie. But then I think the most popular native movies, I guess the ones that are produced at had a lot of exposure.
Yeah.
A lot of those movies tend to kind of have the same actors in every single one. You got Graham Greene, who's one. Who's the tribal police officer in the movie Thunderheart. Yeah. And then he's also in the Twilight movie franchise as well. And then I think the other popular ones too is Adam Beach. He's in Smoke Signals, Dance Me Outside. I really liked him in Dance Me Outside because it's like every movie that he's in, he's this real serious character. Yeah. And then Dance Me Outside, he's kind of I guess like one of us. Yeah. Like one of us dumb native guys. And then and the other one too, like the female Irene Bedard, I think she's in a lot of these other different types of movies. But I guess that kind of goes to show the amount of native actresses that are out there that are portraying these roles, that there aren't there aren't a lot of them. Yeah. And so they end up portraying roles in several films. I know that a lot of the native movies that are, I guess, kind of more mainstream, a little bit more commercial, are those that are kind of based off of historical events. And so you take it back to when this country was first created, and the I don't know what we would call them, the colonizers. Yeah. The people that came from Europe when they wanted to settle this country, that they came in and they had all these wars with all these different tribes. And so I think a lot of those actual historical contexts, those are the ones that were kind of made famous. And so movies like Dances with Wolves or Last of the Mohicans was another one, and then there are a few others. Squanto, I think, was something else that kind of portrayed that
sort of like the big blockbuster movies that portray Native Americans. Yeah, and so back in the early 50s, 50s, 60s, 70s, there weren't a lot of movies that were made with Native Americans. So a lot of white people had played or portrayed Native American and played a Native American character in a Native American movie. Sort of like, what was that one movie? A Man Called Horse with Richard Harris. Okay. Yeah, so he was the native that was a white guy, but was playing a Native American. But he wasn't a native. He wasn't a native. And it was made back in the 70s. So, and a lot of these Native American actors, didn't really like, or, a lot of these Native American people didn't like that there were no Native American actors at the time. So that's the reason why a lot of these movies that that come out don't have a lot of these portrayals of Native Americans in movies. I think the latest one was with Johnny Depp. Remember, what was that? The
Lone Ranger.
Lone Ranger. And a lot of Native American people got angry about that, and because he wasn't Native American,
but he portrayed
a Native
American character.
Yeah. So that was like, okay, so and it was weird in a way to see a white man playing a Native American person again. You know, and because we do have Native American actors that can take that part, but then you have a big time actor that can play any part. So, I mean, I love Johnny Depp. I like that guy. But I don't. When he acted in that movie Lone Ranger, I didn't really see any problem to it. Yeah, it was because hey, he's my favorite actor and I like that guy.
So I take it you weren't upset either when Jennifer Lopez was asked to play Selena in the.
I thought she was Selena
in that biopic.
I thought she was Selena for a long time
because Selena is Mexican.
Yeah,
Mexican American, and Jennifer Lopez is Puerto Rican.
Yeah.
And so, that was the next question I was going to pose to you. But you seem like a guy that doesn't really get offended by a whole lot. Like, have you seen any movies or any type of TV shows that portray natives that kind of just made you like really shake your head?
Yeah, there was one movie called Hopi Itakachi. Everybody knows what Hopi Itakachi is, so you probably have that in your DVD collection. It portrays the Hopi culture. So
does it?
Yeah, made back in 1960 something, and filmed a lot of the native culture or how it was back in the day. It had a lot of the rituals and the rites that people got upset about. So I think that's like one movie there.
Because there are several I think that like native scholars that they'll point out that kind of have this real inaccurate portrayal of native folks. One is one of those early Disney movies, Peter Pan. You remember that?
I remember Peter Pan. Yeah.
You remember that scene where they're there with the natives?
Oh yeah.
With the Indians and kind of how they were displayed as those caricature type of portrayals of native folks in that. And so I think that's one that kind of really does rub folks the wrong way. And then I don't know what you think about Pocahontas. I don't know if that's, one that's kind of caused controversy around that Disney studio and something that they produced.
You're talking about the animation Pocahontas, right? And I mean, like, they kind of did make it into where it was family friendly. But, when you really read into Pocahontas, her story is not like that per se. But it was just mainly made for the masses and for children to say that, hey, I know Native American. I know how to sing, with the raccoon.
Do you sing any of those songs in the shower?
Have you heard the wolf cry in the moon?
I'm sorry I asked.
All the colors of the wind.
That is a real catchy song, though.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I'm just waiting for that. I'm just waiting for a raccoon to pop out every now and then, so. Dene Mahapi Arts is a modern art made with traditional values. Dene is involving artists who is innovative through her artwork, while incorporating contemporary modern trends and bright colors being the base of her work. Hopi traditional elements is her main focus, giving her artwork an intricate finish. Though she's living in today's modern society, she paints meaning and value of traditional designs to showcase and symbolizes her upbringing out on Hopi. She specializes in customized painted earrings to her colorful bright canvas paintings and much more. Dene can be found on Instagram at D Mahapi Arts, where you can find and support her one-of-a-kind art pieces.
There are more, I guess, I guess in terms of the popular ones that we spoke about, the smoke signals, Dance Me Outside. Another one that was really good too was Skins. I don't know if you've seen Skins.
I think I've heard of it.
But that's kind of a movie that's about, it deals with alcoholism, and that has Graham Greene in it too. I think, and that's kind of, a commonality with a lot of these movies is that they really do have to deal with tribes that are usually like in the plains areas, or the northwest areas. Like in terms of the popular movies, the ones that garner kind of a little bit more interest, there are very little that focus on the southwest tribes.
Yeah, I was ready to say that. It's like all of the movies that like back in the early 80s and 90s, all have to deal with like the Plains Indians and nothing that has to deal with like Southwest Pueblo Indians. And which is weird because, you know, that's kind of like the stereotypical Indian with the feather in the hair and, you know, with
the big war
bonnet and the teepee
and the horses.
Yeah, and that's where I guess that's where a lot of American culture says that, you know, all Native Americans are the same, because I watched Pocahontas. I sang with that raccoon. I sang with the raccoon. I know the song.
Grandmother Willow gave me an Indian name.
And it goes to show you that, yeah, we're uneducated in a way to say that, oh, okay, yeah, there are more than just the Plains Indians. And like when going back to my story with, what my roommate back in college saying that I didn't know there was more than one, you know, Native American tribe. I thought all natives lived in teepees.
With that being said, I'm gonna ask you a question and see what we get out of this.
All right.
How many movies can you name that actually feature Hopis?
Hopi Itakachi. I think that's the only movie that I can think of.
There's Dark Wind.
Dark Wind. Oh, yes, that's right. Dark Wind. I forgot about Dark Wind.
And where Gary Farmer, who's Victor's father in Smoke Signals, it's like that guy's everywhere.
Yeah.
He's the one that plays the Hopi.
Yeah, Hopi cop.
Yeah, he's the one that plays the Hopi cop. And so, you know, I guess that goes to show that whoever created that movie knew very little about Hopis, that they got this real tall big man to play the Hopi.
He looked nothing like a Hopi. He was too fat and too big.
And then the other one that I can think of is Mortal Kombat 2.
Mortal Kombat 2. Oh, yes. Where they go to the Hopi Mesas.
Where they travel to the Hopi Mesas.
So travel to the Hopi Mesas. Yes, to meet Nightwolf.
And so Nightwolf is Hopi, apparently.
I remember that because back in grade school, when that movie came out, all the girls that were in my class were actually saying that, you know, hey, you should be Nightwolf for like Halloween. And I'm like, Nightwolf for who? It's like, yeah, isn't that where Hopi guys come from? I'm like, yeah, throw a tomahawk at you.
You probably call yourself Night Coyote now.
Yeah, that's true. But, you know, there are very little Hopi movies or movies that portray Hopi in a way.
Or even tribes in the Southwest.
Yeah.
I think the ones that are out there are like that, like the indie films that you've been talking about, because then some of the ones that I know of, like the movie we've mentioned on this podcast before, the More Than Fry Bread movie.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's one that solely focuses on Southwest tribes. There's a couple of movies that have been produced mostly about Navajos, like I think Turquoise Rose. Was one that I've seen before, which actually is pretty decent.
Yeah.
And then there's another one too. I think it's called Milepost something.
Yeah.
Milepost a number. And that movie deals with alcoholism too. And I thought that movie did a real good job in portraying, like, you know, like your alcoholic buddies that are on the reservation that, you know, really try to get you to go party with them. And so, you know, you're walking down the street minding your own business and then, you know, acting. I think the guy's name was Cloit Begay. And so, you know, you're being Cloit and then they're trying to get you to go party with them. And they actually reference Hopis in that movie too, as well, I believe.
Really?
And then I don't know if you know, but one of the actors, he's part of that comedy group. What are their names? The Navajo comedy guys.
James and Ernie.
James and Ernie.
Yeah,
one of them. I believe it's James. I think it's James, the younger guy.
Oh, yeah.
At least the younger looking guy.
Yeah.
He's actually part Hopi.
Yeah. I heard about that.
Yeah, he's from your village, from Hotvela.
No, I think he was from, I think he said that he had relatives in Polaco or something.
From Hotvela.
From Hotvela?
Mm-hmm.
Probably. Yeah, they were all mixed breeds up there anyway, so. Did you know that some cartoons like Family Guy and what was the other one too? American Dad.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, they portray Hopi in some of their cartoons.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There was one that like going to the Hopi Mesa or something like that.
Oh, really?
And making fun of like, I'm going to drop you off at the Hopi Mesas here so we don't have to take you home kind of deal. And there was another one where it's like, they went to a shaman on the Hopi reservation, and they said that, the shaman said something about like, the world ending, and the world ended. And it was, I think that was either on American Dad or on Family Guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And then I know that The Simpsons have referenced Hopis too before, and I didn't really understand the joke that was made. One of the characters, I believe it was Lisa Simpson, the young daughter, made the reference that there's a TV made by the Hopi Indians, and so I didn't really understand. Like, we're the last people that would know how to make TVs.
Oh yeah. I think I seen that one.
And then I think that most recently there was a popular clip on Facebook that's been going around, and it was from an episode. I don't know if you remember I don't know if you would call it a cartoon from back in our youth days, but Gumby.
Gumby. Oh yes, Gumby was the what was it? What was that, Lost Hopi or something like that?
Yeah, the Hopi guy.
Yeah,
the Hopi boy.
Hopi boy, Lost Hopi boy.
He finds Gumby and Pokey.
Yeah,
and then they're like, I'm lost. I'm trying to get back to my village. And then the joke that made me laugh was Pokey. He said, "But you're Indian. How can you get lost?"
And that's all stereotypical. Like, we're basically the trackers of everything, and we know how to find our way home. And
you taste the dirt.
Yeah,
and you know which direction.
Smell the air, and sort of like Thunderheart. Remember where Graham Greene goes up to? It's not like size 32.
He's got 13 cents in his left pocket.
And I guess that just goes to show you that those are all stereotypical stereotypes of what America,
our culture
is.
What
America has portrayed our culture.
Mm-hmm.
So, in a way, it's like we're part of that. We're part of that, just that.
Part of perpetuating the stereotype.
Yeah. And I guess we are we're not forgotten. We're just in the mix of things. So.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I think that, some of that stereotyping there is some truth to it. There is some truth to it. And I think that that's probably why, we like some of these more, indie movies that are created by Native people.
Yeah.
That portray our lifestyles, because we get each other. We get each other, even though that like, for example, we're on the Hopi reservation, but there's a lot of things that we have in common with people that live on the Navajo reservation, or that live on the the O'odham reservations down in Phoenix, or et cetera, et cetera. And so there's a lot of things that we kind of do to, I guess, in a way, kind of like cut corners, and not necessarily cut corners, but I guess to save some bucks. And so there's some things that we do that's kind of, I guess, laughable on the outside looking in.
Yeah.
Because, we're doing a lot of these things to try to compensate for the fact that, a lot of our families don't make a living in the way that a lot of these Bahana families do. And so that's kind of where some of this portrayal comes in. Like in the movie Smoke Signals, where you got those two chicks that are riding in that car backwards all the time because it doesn't go forward.
Yeah.
And it's like, who has money to fix the car as long as it runs?
Yep.
And that's basically, how you end up getting that Indian car.
That res ride there.
Get that res rocket.
Yep, exactly. And I guess that just goes to show you that we are stereotypical in the movies. So whatever you see in the movies, kids, that's basically how we live. So
speaking of stereotyping movies, if you were given enough money to create a movie, and they said, "Carl, we want you to create a movie about Hopis on the reservation," what would you do?
What would I do? Well, first of all, would it
be a comedy?
Make it a
or would it be a horror flick?
I have no idea. I think it would just be like, hey, what's going on kind of deal.
I think the dynamics of our reservation, it would kind of be a combination comedy horror flick.
Comedy horror flick.
That Netflix TV show called, what is it called? Stranger Things?
Yeah.
That universe, or that alternate dimension within that film. They call it the upside down.
The upside down.
The upside down. The Hopi reservation is the real upside down.
No one can't leave from that upside down. and where we as Native Americans have this whole genre of like how we where we are, where we want to be stereotypical or stereotyped, we look to the movies. We just look to say, hey, I want to be that, that type of Native American there. Like when going back to Dances with Wolves, I wanted to be that guy because he was the guy that looked hot and could get the girls without even knowing it.
Do you mean Dances with Wolves or Last of the Mohicans?
Oh, Last of the Mohicans. I didn't want stands with fists. So.
The Indige Design Collab are Indigenous designers collaborating to bring creative people and ideas closer together through education, communication, and creative expression. They explore, cultivate, and indigenize space. Indige Design Collab is having a call for entry starting September 1st for digital artwork for their second annual design show. The theme is Rise to Vote. For more information, they can be found on Facebook or Instagram.
So, and that was it. That it was the portrayal of trying to find like who you are, I guess you could say, through movies or through music. And although we know who we are as a culture, but individually, you want it to be not Hopi. You want it to be something else. I want it to be something else because that's much cooler than being Hopi.
Because you didn't want to have that face coming up like you just harvested the corn.
Yeah.
You wanted that warrior look.
I wanted the warrior look. I wanted the Squanto look.
You wanted to look like you came back from killing a big buck and not the small cottontails from your cornfield.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of Dances with Wolves, actually when they made that movie, I don't know if it was like the studios, they were trying to be like generous to tribes or something, but I think they did like tours. They did tours to reservations with the actors.
Really?
But Kevin Costner visited the day school.
Really?
When that movie first came out.
Dang.
And we were kids and they were there at the school talking to us about the movie. But we were kids. Like we didn't know. Understand like what the significance of having a big Hollywood star.
Who's this white loser here? Why is he talking to me?
Who's this white guy talking to me about Indians? But they actually visited our school. And so, now that I think back on it, I was like, wow, they came down to the day school.
You actually met Kevin Costner?
Met Kevin Costner.
Yeah, you didn't even know it.
And I didn't even know it.
Well, and speaking of like the different merchant or like the different portrayals of Native Americans, you have merchandise that came out like like with what was that one Indian in the Cupboard? Remember you had the little figurine that came with the VHS.
Oh, that's
the
right.
key and stuff.
That's right.
And you had all of these,
or your Fry Bread Power T-shirts.
Yeah, or your Fry Bread Power T-shirts. And speaking of T-shirts, Last Minute Screen Printing actually is sponsoring part of this this episode here. Last Minute Screen Printing will handle all your screen printing and T-shirt needs. It's actually a local business based in Tuba City and has serviced customers throughout the Hopi and Navajo reservation. Find them on Facebook to give them a like or contact 602-526-7659. Or you can send an email to Brian, BRIANOSIF @gmail.com. So if you want some screen print T-shirts, go ahead and look him up.
And if you want to purchase some CJ Podcast T-shirts.
Oh, yeah. And if you want to purchase CJ Podcast T-shirts, go to myshopify.com/strongones. Am I correct?
Yes.
All right, good. And so if you want to do that, go ahead and do that. Purchase all you want, then it's actually a limited supply. So hurry and click that buy now button.
Please.
But going back to the movies, there are very, very little blockbuster movies that actually make it to the silver screen.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, like Apocalypto is like one of the latest movies that actually did make it a huge hit. But it wasn't like the true type of what is it?
It was Mel Gibson's
version. Mel Gibson's version of his idea.
Catholics are going to save the
Yeah.
Mayan tribes.
Yeah, and it was. I think that's where it kind of. Although the visionary part of it is really neat, it's just the storytelling was kind of weak in a way where it's like natives were like not grand in anything, but they were more like poor, but grand and poor at the same time. And at the last minute, then you had Christopher Columbus saving everybody.
Exactly.
And so I guess that's where that one movie that kind of made it into the big screen.
Mm-hmm. That's actually a pretty good point. The fact that when these movies that do portray natives do make it to the big screen, that there is this underlying theme, and I think that in academics what they call it is the white superhero theme.
Oh yeah,
meaning that it's the Bahanas that actually come and save the natives, whether it's from themselves or from some sort of other crisis. And so like Dances with Wolves is another example, as Kevin Costner's character ultimately is becomes the superhero and trying to save the natives. And there's a couple of others too that I guess that are kind of a little bit more modern than Apocalypto. I know that a couple of movies that we've watched are like Wind River. Did you watch that movie?
Wind River? I remember watching it in I think we watched it in class before.
It's actually a newer movie, and that one has that same theme too of the Bahana superheroes coming save the natives, but the superheroes are actually superheroes because they're the Marvel actors. You have Jeremy Renner, who portrays Hawkeye.
Oh yes,
in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and then you have, I believe her name is Elizabeth Olsen, who plays one of the heroes, the heroines in the Marvel movies. And then actually I forget his name, but he's actually he plays the Punisher in the Netflix series of Marvel, but he's in the movie as well. And so all three of those characters are kind of on the side of the good side for the natives.
Yeah.
And so it's a movie that kind of unfortunately, does discuss a real life issue in today, missing and murdered Indigenous women.
Yeah.
And it talks about, basically Jeremy Renner and Elizabeth Olsen trying to figure out what happened to this girl. And then they end up finding out that her killer also killed her boyfriend.
Really?
Who was actually the Punisher guy.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. See, all of these movies that that I didn't know about with Native Americans have this portrayal of like we being the weak, and there's
John Bernthal is his name.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
It's actually one of my favorite characters.
Really?
Favorite actors.
And go ahead.
So if this Hopi movie happens, we have to have that Bahana superhero.
Okay.
That's going to come in and save the Hopis from themselves.
And probably Kevin Costner sometime. Well, I'll be Kevin Costner's bitch sometimes though. and when we portray a Native American movie, there are indie Native American movies out there, like with the Sundance and like the Sundance Channel, or like where was that one up in Canada? There's those awards, the award shows.
I know what you're talking about.
And
that's not Sundance?
I think that is Sundance. Yeah, is that? I think so. I have to, Facebookers out there, correct me if I'm wrong.
Which he usually is.
Shut up. But anyway, there are indie Native American films that have just Native American actors in them telling the real side of Native America, but that don't actually make it to any type of big screen. And it's just like, a true way of saying that this is who we are and what we do. But Hollywood has made it to so where we are the lesser, the weaker, and we need somebody like Johnny Depp or, Robert Redford to come in and save the day.
Val Kilmer
to come and save the day. And those are and it's kind of weird in a way, but we don't say anything because we're always portrayed in there. So we're like, yeah,
at least we have a part in there.
Yeah, it's like at least we have a part in there. I don't care if I'm Kevin Costner's bitch or not.
What was that new Western movie? It's not real new. I think it came out within the last 5 years. Like the Magnificent Seven.
Oh yes,
and they had that one part for the one native guy. And I think his name was Red Moon or something like that. But he was another one that the ladies were all about.
Yeah, I remember that movie. Yeah, it was with what was it? Seth? No, the guy who created Family Guy. He was when he was in there, right?
I believe that it was. I'm pretty sure it was called the Magnificent Seven. But I don't remember what a lot of those characters.
Am I thinking of another movie?
I think you're thinking of another.
I think I'm thinking of another movie. Yeah. But anyway, there are still a lot of movies out there, and I'm pretty sure that there are still movies that we still haven't even touched on with Native Americans.
Oh no, there's so many.
Yeah, there are a lot of movies that have Native American portrayal in there. Mm-hmm. A lot of them are actually just B-rated movies that never make it onto the big screen.
Exactly.
And so, like, with my question, maybe why is it that Native America is not becoming their own movie industry? I mean, there are Native American actors out there that do have and do hold a lot of the skills necessary to become real Native American actors.
Mm-hmm. And there's some big time Native American actors out there. Adam Beach,
yes.
Wes Studi.
Yes, Wes Studi.
That guy's in everything.
Yeah. But though, they're very, very limited onto what characters they play. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. They can't play like the white, what was it? The white detective, or the black man in drag or whatever.
Can you imagine that conversation between Wes Studi and Adam Beach? How's it going, Adam? Well, I'm doing really good, but I'm getting really tired of being typecast. I'd like to expand out and maybe play the white detective for once, or to, be in one of the hood movies.
Yeah, I want to wear a do-rag once in a while.
But I guess, as we get close to closing this out, speaking of B-roll footage and real amateur work, Carl has taken up his own little projects here.
Oh, yeah.
And is in the works of developing some miniseries.
Oh, yes.
For our YouTube channel. So go and make sure you like and subscribe, or at least subscribe to our YouTube channel. That way you can be notified anytime that any of these future videos come out.
And click that bell icon to be first one to be noticed. So thank you for listening to Carl and J-Man Save the World podcast. My name is Carl, and this is my best friend, J-Man. Thank you for listening.
So long.